Welcome back to the Leetcode Blind 75 solution series, where we'll be solving every blind 75 question with Rust. We'll be going from top to bottom on the list you can find at neetcode.io/practice. As always, open your text editor and set a unit struct called solution. And let's begin. So today we'll be looking at question 5, which is top k frequent element. And the question says, given an integer array nums and an integer k, return the k most frequent elements. You may return the answer in any order. So here we have an array of integers and we have k equals 2. So we have to return the two most frequent elements, which is 1, which appears 3 times, and 2, which appears twice. So we have 1 and 2 as our outputs. So how do we solve this? Let's copy the input and let's begin visualizing. So to solve this question, we'll be using a hash map. Let me draw this and there. So basically, in this video, we'll be going through two solutions, but one is quite easy and the other is a bit more complex, but we'll get to that later. So for this first solution, we iterate through each element of the array and then we tabulate its frequency inside the hash map. So with the hash map, we're going to have here the number. So here will be number and here will be frequency. Good. So now, if I clear this, let's take this a little higher. Okay, so we have 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, k equals 2. So we start from here. We say 1. Is 1 in the hash map? No. So we're going to add it to the hash map, 1, and we're going to give it a frequency of 1. Then we are at the next element, another 1. Is 1 in the hash map? Yes. So we will change this frequency from 1 to 2. Now, is 1 in the hash map? We see another 1 again. Is 1 in the hash map? Yes. We'll increase the frequency by 1, so this becomes 3. Now we are at 2. Is 2 in the hash map? No. We put 2, we change the frequency to 1. We see another 2. We increase the frequency by 1. We see, okay, no more 2s. Now we see a 3. And is 3 in the hash map? No. 3, and we put 1. And then we do this for all the items in the array. Then we then change this hash map into a vector of tuples. Tuples in Rust are a product type that can hold more than one type. For example, it can hold both an i32 and a string, or a character and a usize, or something like that. So how do we do this? We change this hash map into a vector of tuples, and that tuple will hold two i32 values, the first being the number and the second being the frequency. So this hash map as a tuple will look something like this. 1, the number 3, the frequency, 2, the number 2, the frequency, and 3, the number 1, the frequency. So it's going to look something like this. Good. This is how we're going to end up. We're going to have such a vector. And then we sort, the next step is that we sort this vector by the highest occurring number. So we sort by the frequencies. The largest frequency should be at the beginning and the lowest frequency should be at the end. So this example over here is already sorted, because as we can see, 1 has a frequency of 3, which is the highest in this hash map. 2 has a frequency of 2, which is the second highest. 3 with a frequency of 1, which is the third highest or the least. And yes, it's really that simple. So this is sorted. Let me write over here, sort. Now we sort. We simply take the first k elements inside the vector. So the first two elements, this vector will then become uh, hash vec equals 1 3, and then we have 2 2, this. So this is what will end up as, and then we inside this vector we basically remove the second elements and keep just the number. Remember, we are returning the numbers, as you can see here, 1 and 2. These are the numbers that occur the most, not the frequency, the number. So here we will be returning 1 and 2. So we simply map this vector into just its first tuple value. And so we end up finally with something like this. Result equals 1 2. So yeah, it's as simple as that. So let's see again. We go through each element, create a hash map with the number as the key and the frequency as the value. Then we change this hash map into a vector of tuples. After that, we sort the vector of tuples by the frequency. Next, we take the first k elements of that vector, and finally, we map the vector to just the number, not the number and frequency, just the number. So let's begin implementing that. We copy this, paste in our text editor, and now we'll be using the hash map. So we'll say let hash map. This should be a mutable hash map, so we can add more values later. Equals hash map new. Good. So the hash map is of type i32, 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 i32. Now we say for n in nums, hash, let's remove this, hash map dot entry n plus dot or insert 0 plus equals 1. So what is this saying? It's saying we should get the number. We should look for the number inside the hash map. If we do not find such a number as a key, we should put the number as a key and give it a value of 0, then add 1. So let me say that again. We have a hash map. We are looking for the number as a key, just like this, the number as a key inside the hash map. If we don't find the number, we should then set it as a key and set 0 as its value, then add 1 to the value inside. So if we're looking for this for the first time, it's going to have a value of 0 plus 1, 1. So if it's the second time, we already have the value of 1, so we just add 1. So this will be 2. The third time, we have a value of 2, and this will be 3, and we just keep going like that. So this should throw a few errors. Let's see. Okay, let's return an empty vector. So this is a mutable reference, so we have to dereference this, and I think we should be good. Okay, so next, now we are done with this part, with this, where's the, okay, with this entire part. We have our hash map now. Next, we have to change it to a vector of tuples. So we say let's mute hash vec equals hash map dot iter dot collect. Let's see. Okay, we have to specify that this is a vector of tuples of i32 values, of two i32 values. So we do into iter. So to consume the hash map. Now we have this. Good. We consume the hash map and then collect its key value pairs into a vector. So now we currently have hash vec as something like this. Now we sort hash vec. So how do we sort? We sort it by We sort it by the frequencies. The largest frequencies come here, come at the stay closer to the start, and the lowest frequencies are at the end. So let's do that. Hash vec dot sort, the sort by. Then we have two values, which are tuples A and B. So these are both tuples. And what do we do? A dot 1. Because we want to access because we want to access the frequencies. The frequencies are the second positions. So we use dot 1 since it's a tuple. So dot 1 will give us the second position. If it was a tuple with maybe 3, like 1, 4, 5, so this would be dot 0, this would be dot 1, and this would be dot 2. So that's how you access values in the tuple in Rust. So a dot 1 for the frequency dot compare, and b dot 1 for b's frequency. But remember, we want b. Okay, this should be an and. We want b. We want the higher frequencies at the start, so we have to put b here. B dot 1 and A at the part. So the smaller one goes to the right and the bigger goes to the left. So eventually we will have the largest at the start and the lowest at the end. Now what do? We have sorted the array. Now we want to take the first k elements of the array. So we say hash vec dot iter dot take k dot collect. So we should iterate through this vector and take just the first k elements of the vector dot collect. Now that is a vector. So we collect it all back into a vector, and yeah, we can return it. So this is iterate, so we have to change to a use size. Good. Let's see. Okay. So now we have this. The first k elements inside the vector. Now remember, we have to return just the numbers, the numbers inside, the numbers over here, not the number and the frequency, just the numbers. So to access it will be dot 0, just like I said before, because it's a tuple, dot 0 for the first element. So dot map. So for each element E, just return just the first value inside E dot 0. So this is the final solution. Into a hash map, into a vector, sort the vector, take the first k elements, return just the numbers. This is how we do it in Rust. Okay, let's submit for the first solution, and we copy this. Remember, we use a hash map. So first of all, remove the struct called solution. Remember, we use the hash map. Use std, it's in collections, and hash map. No, run. Good. You see the test passed. The test passed splendidly. Let's submit just to see that it does indeed work. Good. Very good. Okay. So now we move on to the second solution, which is a bit more complex, but you will get the hang of it. So in this second solution, as you can see, in the previous solution, we had this hash map, and then we changed it into a vector of iterators. The vector of iterators that went 1, 3, 1, 3, 2, 2, and 3, 1. But here we'll actually be doing something different. Instead of a vector of iterators, we will be creating a 2D vector, which is going to hold other vectors with numbers as values and indexes as frequency. I'm not sure that made much sense, so I'll explain it with a diagram. Now let's see this. So as you can see in this, give me a sec. Okay. As you can see in this hash map, we have frequency 3, frequency 2, frequency 1. So what we're going to then do is take the new array, the new two-dimensional array. Let's use a line here, new two-dimensional array. And now let's write out the indexes. So we'll have some lines. So now we have our lines already. Now what do? We check here. The number 1 has a frequency of 3. So we go to the index. So we go to the index 3 of this vector. Let's call it the frequency vector. Frequency vector. We go to the frequency vector. So we go to index 3 of the frequency vector and we put 1 inside an array. 1 like this. So 2 has a frequency of 2. We go to the index 2 in the frequency vector and 2. Now 3 has a frequency of 1. We look for 1 over here and we put 3. Now let's assume we had some more numbers. This was not all. And then let's say we had maybe 4 with a frequency of 3. We had 5 with a frequency of 15, and we had 6. A frequency of 15? No. Let's reduce that to a frequency of 6, just because this has a maximum of 6. And let's say 6, a frequency of 3 again, and 7, a frequency of 1. Now, how would this frequency vector look like? We start from 1 with a frequency of 3 here, 2 with a frequency of 2 here, 3 with a frequency of 1 here, and 4 with a frequency of 3. So we go to index 3, and then we now have, instead of just 1, we have 1 and we have 4, like this. Next, we have 4 with a 5 with a frequency of 6. So we go to index 6 and we place a 5 inside. 6 with a frequency of 3. So we repeat the process. We push 6 inside. So we should have 1, 4, and 6. And 7 with a frequency of 1. So we then have 3 and 1 and 3 and 7 as the numbers here. Now I'm sure you might be thinking, why do we need to do this if we already have a solution here? It's simply because of the time complexity. So in this first solution, we had a time complexity of O of n log n. So we iterate through the entire array, O of n. We iterate once more, as you can see here, O of 2n, which is O of n, and then we sort. Sorting in Rust, according to the official documentation, uses a kind of merge sort, which let's assume is the basic merge sort, and then we have a time complexity of O of n log n. And yes, so O of 2n plus n log n again. So we can just summarize it as O of n log n as the time complexity. But over here in this solution, it's going to be O of n time. Well, technically it's O of about 3n, but it's O of n time because we iterate through all the numbers. Let's iterate through all the numbers in nums, which is O of n. Now they're in a hash map. And then you put it into a frequency vector. So you iterate through all the numbers once, and then you iterate through the hash map so that you can add the numbers inside the frequency vector, and then you start from the bottom. So for example here, we're supposed to return the largest 2 elements. So we start from the bottom over here, and then we have in our array, we're going to have 5. Next, we can see 5 has nothing, 4 has nothing, and then we have 1, 4, and 6. So we can pick any of these. Let's say 6. And good. Now we have the solution. We just start from the largest and just keep taking the numbers one by one. So if it was like the first, let's say the top 4 elements, it would be about 5. It would be about 5, 1, 4, 6. So that is how the array is going to look like if we were to take the top four frequent elements. And another thing, so we have a 6 here. Let me change this back to the original question. So another thing, you might be wondering, why does this end as at 6? Why does this frequency vector only have from 0 to 6? That is because of the length of nums. Lots. So a number cannot appear more than 6 times if you can only have a maximum of 6 numbers. Same way, if we only have 10 numbers, you cannot find one number appearing 11 times because we only have 10 numbers to choose from. And that is why the maximum here is 6. So if this was maybe 10, the length of this was 10, let's assume it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then this would extend to 10, and then just in the frequency of 1, we're going to have the entire array here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 because they all appear once. So let's implement that in Rust. So we will be keeping the hash map. We'll be keeping up to the hash map solution, and let's continue from here. So according to this, we should have a frequency vector, which is a two-dimensional vector with the index as frequencies and the values as array of numbers. So let's mutable frequency vector equal a vec of an array. Good. But now this array should be a two-dimensional array, so we should also hold another vector. Good. And it should appear, how many vectors should we have? So as I said here, if we take the total length, and that should be the maximum index. So the length here is 6, the maximum index should be 6, and if you count 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, because vectors are 0 index. Even though no elements are going to appear in this place, only from 1 to 6, we have to count this as a part. So this will appear, so this will have a length of 7. Similarly, here we have 10 numbers, so this frequency vector will have a length of 11, counting the 0. So whatever the size of nums is, we're going to have the size of the frequency vector be nums plus 1 because of the 0 here. So we can write here as nums dot length plus 1. So what we're basically telling Rust is that, okay, create a new vector, a new two-dimensional. Can I see? Okay, let's write the type in here. Let's cancel this, and vector of I32. So basically telling Rust that, okay, create a vector of empty vectors. For how many empty vectors do I want? I want nums length plus 1 empty vectors. So we're going to end up with something like this. So we're going to have something like this appear, nums length plus 1 times. Now we then say hash map. We iterate through the hash map that for each for each element inside the hash map. Now let's write for each, and this should be a tuple, let's call this number, let's call this frequency. We're going to do something. So as you can see, this is I32, the number and the frequency. Remember that frequency vector, the index is a frequency vector, represent frequencies, and this represents the numbers. So what are we simply going to do? We will say frequency vector of that frequency, because this is the index. So frequency vector of f, we're going to have to dereference this f, because as you can see, this is an and I32, dereference it and change it into a U size. So frequency vector f as U size. This will then give us the inner vector. So the inner vector, as you can see in this illustration, now what we're looking at is not the entire vector, just the inner vector, depending on the value of f. So in the first scenario, let's assume the hash map takes it in order. So frequency is 3. So currently we are inside this block. What we want to do, we want to push the number. We want to push the number. So yeah, it's as simple as this. We want to push the number inside the frequency vector. So now, just like we had before, at frequency 3, we will have a 1. Let me delete these. At frequency 3, we will have a 1. Frequency 2, we will have a 2. Frequency 1, we will have a 3. So that is our frequency vector is going to end up something like this, as you can see in this illustration. Empty vectors at the parts with no frequencies, and with numbers in certain frequencies, we have them in an array. Now, to finish this off, we'll say frequency vector let mute result equal to an empty vector. Now, what next? For the value in frequency vector. Now, okay, let's change this for vector in frequency vector. What do? We say we're not looking through the vector. So for vec in frequency vector, this is iterating through each vector inside, but we want to iterate inside those vectors. So we want to go one level deeper. We say for number in vec. Okay, now we're at the part we want. For number in vector, we have to do something. We have to push the number. Result.push number. Now that we've pushed the number, we then check if result.length is equal to k, we break the loop. So we want to break the outer loop, and then let's label this. In Rust, you can label your loops. So we want to break the outer loop, break outer, and simply return result. Or you can just say results, implicit return statements. Let's see. Convert an I32 to a U size as U size. Let's see here. Borrow of moved values, nums. So it seems nums was moved. Let's try bringing frequency vector up here. Yeah, that works fine. So we create the empty frequency vector, create the hash map, assign to the hash map. Now insert those numbers, insert those numbers inside the frequency vector's values, create a new vector called result, and just take only k numbers, only the k most frequent numbers. Yes. Oh, we have to do this in reverse. So, because remember, we're taking the largest number. So we can say for vector index in 0 to frequency vector dot length dot rev. Now we have to reverse the iteration dot rev, and number in frequency vector vec index. So we can say, and let's see, vector and I32. So we should dereference this from here. Okay, we are good. Just uh, some Rust syntax run around. Yeah, so we are good. I hope this explanation was easy enough to grasp. Let me know in the comment section. So just to iterate once more, with the hash map, create a new two-dimensional array, take the indexes as frequencies and the values as the array of numbers matching those frequencies. Then we push into each array the numbers matching those frequencies. Then at the end, we start from the bottom, which it should be, we start from the end, which should be the largest index, and go all the way to the smallest index. So we can find the top k most frequent elements, because these would be the most frequent and these would be the least frequent. I hope that was easy to understand. Now let's submit our code. Copy this. Remember we use a hash map, so, and okay, now this should work. Good, it works fine, and let's submit. Wonderful. You can see it works fine. And yeah, that would be all for this video. See you in the next one.